Welcome to my review of the Audiosense AQ0. It's a single dynamic driver per side. As a full disclaimer, I bought this from the AliExpress Audiosense store with my own money. I was not paid to do this video, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. And yeah, as usual, let's get into it. Like I said in the intro, Audiosense AQ0, single dynamic driver, which I personally do like, and they actually do look a lot better than the actual on the picture. They do use an MMCX, which is kind of a downfall, but I'll get to that later on. It's a 9.2mm dynamic driver, which is a graphene composite diaphragm driver, which sounds good. Hello from Audiosense. Surging shock. There's my code. And on to the actual what it says, a handmade dynamic driver. If that's actually true, that's pretty good. High resolution 3D printing friendly resin shell, which obviously I'll show you in a bit. Premium quality 8 strands 19 core cable. This is one they normally use for other Audiosense products, and it actually is quite a nice cable. I can't really fault it, but I'll show you that in a bit. Gold plated connector, contoured over-ear cable support. I will show you the cable in a bit. So 9.2mm driver, 20Hz to 20 kHz, which is more than human ears can hear anyway. 32 ohms and sensitivity is 101. I had no issues at all powering this on different sources, and the cable length is a 1.25 oxygen-free copper. And obviously there's the actual thing in Korean, Japanese, English and Chinese. So I'll quickly go to the unboxing now. So when you open the box, you basically get this. They originally both sit in there. That's what they look like. In the flesh, these look awesome, but obviously I'll show you them soon. This is the case, and you get a little bit of paperwork. And this is the cable. But I will show you that into more depth soon. But if you've had an Audiosense product, you'll recognise the cable straight away. It's the same one I've got with my T800s. So you get that. Obviously I've opened these. You get two different pairs of tips. Obviously I've already opened them. There's one. And that's the other pair. I've also got two fitted, as you can see. There is quite a difference, and I'll explain why in a bit. That's obviously what the cable was wrapped with, just to keep it for, for travelling. And as you can see, look at the move, it's really nice and soft. I've never really seen that before, but that's such a soft kind of material if the camera focuses. But yeah, nice carry case. It's actually a proper size to hold the earphones and the cable, and maybe even a small digital player. And yeah, let's get on to what the actual guide is. So just the paperwork, English on one side and Chinese on the other. The usual kind of information, so I'll just quickly skim about that. Tells you about burning in, I just used it as normal. Tells you about lossless, methods for cleaning. And that's it. And it's the same thing on the other side, it's just in Chinese. Now on to the tips. Like I said, there can be two different ones. These are obviously more recognisable. So the bore size is wider. Now compared to, let's just pick one of these. See the bore, if the camera focuses, see the bore on the left one is wider than the right. Now I found that makes a bit of a difference in sound. So here is it fitted. If the camera focus, see the hole of the bore is basically the same size as the actual cover, and I found using those tips it's sealed better because these other ones are quite soft. And you just sounded a touch clearer was probably the best way to describe it, because that was covering basically. These cover the whole more. It just sounded, I wouldn't say muffled, but it just sounded clearer with, it focuses, with those type of tips. So I for my usage, I use those ones predominantly for testing. And yeah, that's before I get even onto the sound, onto the good stuff. I'll go on to talk about the cable pretty quick. So yeah, onto the cable. Quite a nice one, to be honest. 3.5 right angle connector. Very, very supple, as you can see. No kinks or anything in the cable. The camera focuses. So yeah, for an included cable, it's probably, I'm quite happy with it, to be honest. So metal Y split. Chin slider, which is very, as you can see, very effective. Straight up to the top. Ear guides work perfectly fine, as you can see. Obviously, I like to put the blue and the red on there to make it really obvious. Plus, they've put a small L. It's hard to see. Right by my right thumb. There's an L and R. Only negative is I prefer a 2-pin because they seem to be more reliable. MM6 can be funny if you keep taking them on and off, because there's a lot of variants with quality of MM6, but that's it. It's quite a nice cable. It's good they included it with this model, which is not the cheapest they make, but it's not like the AQ0, which is way more expensive. And yeah, that's the cable. So finally onto what these bad boys actually look like. These are meant to be, every single one is meant to be unique. So if the camera's going to really show this up, sometimes it shows fingerprints on the back. That one just shows AS there for Audiosense, and this just says AS in the word. Fingerprints, but see, these things look pretty awesome in the flesh. So the black, it all just show fingerprints, which is a bit of a shame, but the build quality and the actual effect on the shell is really good. So let's get into comfort. I had no issues with comfort at all, and I've got 2 different tips on, which I'll explain in a bit why. But comfort on these was I had no issues at all. Obviously you got a vent there, which is kind of cool, and it was the same one they used on the AQ0, I think. And there's another one just there. If the camera will pick it up, it's here. There. So there's 2 vents on these, but for comfort, no issues. Obviously MMCX there. No real other information for left or right. But obviously anybody who knows earphones can actually determine which is which. Let's get on to the sound. These are V-shaped, but not aggressively so, especially beyond the upper mids is the probably only more aggressive part to the sound. But yet they do have a predominantly V-shaped sound. These have awesome sub bass, and the bass is very controlled. So if you do love sub bass, these are ones definitely for you. The texture, the impact, decay was all quite good, to be honest. Like, I was quite impressed with what I heard. But yeah, the bass I did actually quite like a lot. It can be a bit much at times, but if you're a bass head, you'll probably really like these. I like that it's more focused towards sub bass than mid bass. It does have enough mid bass, but it's more focused towards the sub bass kind of region. And I thought it was actually, I think they did a nice job of kind of doing that. Like I say, some people might find it a bit much, but that all depends on your own preference. Go on to the mids. I've seen no graph of these, so I'm just going from by ear. I've seen no other real any feedback, because I bought these as soon as they actually put them on their store. I do like a single dynamic driver configuration, so I bought them quick as I could, and I was lucky they got shipped before Chinese New Year. But yeah, now back into the sound. Mids, the upper mids seem a little bit forward, which is not always my preference. That's female vocals. Male vocals are probably more natural, than the female. The females are a bit pushed forward, but that's not too big deal. And there is you can get mild sibilance at times, but if you try and use the best sources you can, and obviously your volume and everything like that. Treble was there's some upper treble roll off, which is perfectly fine with me, as long as it doesn't drop off too much, which these don't. So no real issues with treble. Good instrument details, good instrument separation, good details, and good stage. Doesn't really feel big, doesn't really feel small. Say black. They do look kind of subtle on that way, and I say the outer look does look good. But the actual sound of these, considering I bought them on a blind purchase, I'm actually quite happy with them. I think they'll cover a lot of bases, as you say, apart from the mild sibilance, which may or not be a problem. And I say the slightly forward upper mids, which I prefer. I prefer it more natural, but as you say, like I said, that more towards female kind of vocals. Negatives is driver flex. These unfortunately have driver flex. More so in my right ear than my left, but everybody's a bit different. Everybody's different ear anatomy. That may or may not affect you. Second negative is MMCX. I prefer T-pin, but that's my preference. But they are fine at the moment. There's no real issues at all. They seem to use good quality connectors. And the third one is probably price. These cost me, I think, around 65. I'll have to double check. And at that kind of price, you're in a very competitive field of dynamic drivers between probably £15 to £20 with like the blondes and the tin T1 Plus. Then you got the tin T2 Plus, and there's a spate obviously in between. There should, I think, be a little bit cheaper, because you're pricing yourself into other competition like Moondrop, like Starfields, aren't much more from this, and they're quite well liked. But I've personally never tried those. But yeah, apart from those three negatives, these are actually quite good. And my video is not probably doing them justice how much they look. Obviously, you can see on the thumbnail what they look like. But yeah, they're not really heavy. The build's good. I like the overall sound, apart from what I mentioned earlier. And yeah, let's actually get on to the actual conclusion. Just before I get to the conclusion, I nearly forgot. See on the actual tip, see the right one, the bore is actually smaller than the left one. The left one, like I said earlier, is because it's wider, and it doesn't cover all of the actual. Try and show you. See, it's wider, and you can see all of basically the grill. But this one covers some. I just preferred that option. And there's also a lip on the nozzle to keep things secure. But yeah, I prefer that tip, but that's just my opinion. So it's slightly flat and slightly smaller. And yeah, now finally onto the conclusion. Now my conclusion of the Audiosense AQ0s is I like these quite a lot. Considering these was actually a blind purchase, I'm kind of glad I got them. And I'm quite glad I got them sent out before Chinese New Year. As you can see, quite a nice cable. 2-pin would have been better, but that's just my opinion. These things look awesome in the flesh, as you probably can kind of tell from here. And each one is meant to be unique. But yeah, apart from the negatives of MMCX, a little bit of driver flex, and maybe a little bit too much low end, or sub-bass kind of focus at the low end. They're quite good overall. I like to see how these compare with things which are more expensive. But I'm quite glad I've got them, and I do recommend these. But hopefully you can get them when they're on a sale or anything like that. But yeah, good stuff. Good overall kind of technicalities and sound signature. yeah, good stuff. But yeah, so thanks for watching and take care.